actually, I have to admit, last summer I was in Chicago at this Out of Chicago conference, and I was insisting on shooting in manual. We're on a photo walk with Levi Sim, and there were about maybe 15 of us. And I have my camera set on manual because that's the way I shoot. And I'm not a cocky guy. I'm not the guy that says if you're not shooting in manual, you're not a real photographer. No. You shoot in the mode that you need to shoot in for what you want to do. But I prefer manual, as I'd said before in a previous episode. And so I'm trying to make these shots, and things are happening kind of fast. Porter comes out of a hotel. It's a great shot, and I miss it. It's totally black. No good. And so this one guy who's on the walk with us, Bob Panic, you know who you are, says, Booze, lighten up. Put your ISO on auto, put it in one of the priority modes, and you'll get your shots. And Bob was right. Right, Bob? Okay, so I went ahead, much to my chagrin, put my ISO on auto, which I don't normally do. And we'll talk about that in another session. But I put the ISO on auto. I prefer to control the shutter speed because of my age. I shake a little bit. Aperture wasn't important to me right now, or the depth of field wasn't important to me, so I put the shutter speed. I think actually I started maybe at 1/125th of a second. So I'm on shutter priority. ISO is at auto, and I'm letting the camera decide what aperture to choose. And so I walk up to this person and say, "Hey, can I take your shot? You look great. That scarf is great. The hair looks great. The sunglasses. Choo-doo. I got 5 great shots of this particular guy. I went around the corner, and there was this young woman sitting with a friend at a cafe, and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I take a picture with this flower in front of you?" And I took the shots. Great shots. And I got them because I was in shutter priority. I had a shutter speed that I knew was going to give me a in-focus picture, because I was focused. I mean, I did control that, the focus. And the camera was choosing an ISO that would work, and it was choosing an aperture that would work. And so shutter priority was a great choice. If I were walking down the street and wanting to be able to just grab a shot as anything happens, I think that my preferred mode would be, let's say, and this has happened to me really, we used to live close to Washington, D.C., we go to Washington, D.C. with some guests, and the president does walk across the street from the White House to the Blair House. And I want to get a picture of him. And so I put it in program mode, which is really auto. And they weren't the greatest shots in the world, but I got them. And so in that case, program mode was great. And I think if I'm just walking along the street and not going to have even a chance to make any decisions, I would put it in program mode. Program mode is not bad because it gives you that automatic shooting capability, and it can give you pretty good results. So program mode was a good choice. If you're walking along and you know that you want to have a shallow depth of field, so you want your aperture to be something like F if you've got a lens that will support it. In case of my 25 millimeter on my EM1, I can go to 1.8. So I just set it at 1.8 auto ISO. Thanks, Bob. And just look for the shot. And when it comes, and it chooses the shutter speed. Now, as long as the thing I don't like about aperture priority is that if the light's not really good, it's going to choose a very slow shutter speed, and that's not going to work for me because you're going to get blur. And that's blur where you don't want the blur. You want the subject to be crisp and in focus. And so aperture priority has its place. Shutter priority has its place for older people like me. Shutter priority is primary, and manual has its place. And you just have to make a decision what makes sense in the situation you're finding yourself in. And there you are.